are Pleasureseekers, living large in Tides of Torment. Alternative name, Sea Lions of Notch Race. If this isn't the best cavalry in the game right now, what is? I went in proverbially blind, and the unit blew me away in the demo combats, making full use of the new daemonic steeds. It's priced like a top-tier cavalry unit, but so far as I could tell, it delivered. Let's break down the details and see why Pleasureseekers are locating satisfaction in a very dominant manner. Currently recruited for 1800 gold and 430 upkeep. Yes, I'm aware that's not a perfect multiple of 4 on Ultra scale. It's 32 entities and 7,296 health between them, or 228 per entity. That's not small and will greatly affect how big area effect spells affect them or tickle them. Armor is 30. Shields are barely above token level at 20% missile block chance from the front. However, physical resistance of 20% helps muffle damage from non-magical sources. Leadership of 70 default is hardly bad. Speed 100 and charge speed 130 are brutally top tier. Melee attack begins at 46. Each and every attack is magical attack, but also carries poison with its usual benefits, reducing enemy melee and missile damage by 15% and speed by 15%. Attack interval 4 seconds is standard. What is not standard is that not only does this have a target splash size of small, as in it has any splash, the max target splashed is 3. In other words, in pitched combat, not simply charges, each entity has the potential to damage 3 infantry entities at once. It won't work on any kind of cavalry, but will on small wolves, hounds, and bats units. This is part of how the unit utterly and completely dominates infantry. It's fun for one side. Melee defense begins at 51, which is actually ridiculously high for cavalry. Weapon strength 60 is split base 14 and armor piercing 44, a very strong ratio arrayed against armor. So in principle, this isn't the strongest unit for being on opponents in pitched melee, but poison and the melee defense make it an incredibly mobile semi-anvil. I am trying to call such things buzzsaw units. There is no explicit bonus versus infantry or large. Charge bonus is 60, which is up there with the starting point of a lot of lance cavalry, and mass is 1600 per entity. This unit is demonic and will vanish rather than flee. It also has the Feasting on Fear mechanic, granting up to 0.4% healing per second based on how many enemies are wavering or lower leadership-wise in their vicinity. They need not be literally fleeing, which undead and demons won't do anyway. The unit causes fear, can hide in forest, has Vanguard Deployment, has Strider, has Devastating Flanker to double its charge bonus from the flank or rear, which would literally double its weapon strength, heavily tilted toward AP on the initial blow. This is the state you are seeing it in the combat footage, and even barreling head-on into Storm Vermin sword and board worked out just fine for them. In the Redline skills, for Nakari-style lores, Captivating Charge at 3 pips grants plus 16% weapon strength and plus 18% charge bonus, which amplifies the high points of the unit's offense. Connoisseurs of Delight would grant rank 7 once, speed plus 10%, melee attack plus 7, and missile resistance plus 15%, where none existed before. For Mortal Lords, I checked with Siggy. Savage Bloodlust applies here, all 3 pips providing armor plus 12 and charge bonus plus 12 flat. Speed and Malice gives rank 7 and up 1 speed plus 10%, melee attack plus 5, and missile resistance plus 15%, so there's not actually much difference there. In the Slaaanesh tech tree, the Prince's Protection grants plus 5% more physical resistance, Darkling Delights adds leadership plus 10 and speed plus 12%, which was already cracked before, Seekers of Pain and Pleasure grants melee attack plus 6 and weapon strength plus 10%, making the rich richer. Demonic Wise reduces upkeep for minus 10% and minus 1 to global recruitment duration time. So how do we use Pleasureseekers? This is not complicated. You use them to flank and rear charge the enemy, preferably infantry, but the fact you can't, or can't without great difficulty, knock down lords means even monstrous lords are going to be eating magical attack, AP damage, and poison with a devastating charge. So they're less awesome against fellow cavalry and monstrous units and single entities. They're still pretty awesome. That's the miracle of armor-piercing damage cranked up with all the other stuff. There are no appreciable weaknesses of this unit, except that its armor is still relatively low. Actually being able to reliably exploit that is questionable. They're easy to use, easy to dominate with, and somewhat difficult to mess up, though not completely impossible. Minimal effort and micro, and you should run away with tons of kills, damage, and victories. That is a top tier unit for you. Obviously, they'll be less effective against a Primeval Glory army and so on, but the fact they're not completely useless is weighted in their favor. Demonic Lords are probably ideal because hitting harder in pitched melee combat means hitting harder in the charge. Hitting even harder in the charge is icing on the cake, and it just becomes a rondo of blood, a symphony of the night, whatever metaphor you want. So, while not literally invincible, they bring a ton of power and deserve utmost respect. Take care and have fun, because if crushing your foes is fun for you, there is much pleasure to be found.